Chapter 15, Miggery So. There are all kinds of princesses. Some are born that way, some marry into it, and some are destined to be princesses only in their own minds. No one would mistake Miggery So for a princess. Certainly not while she was on her hands and knees scrubbing the marble floor of the great hall. Even when not on all fours, Mig, as she was called, bore an unfortunate resemblance to a pig. Her nose turned up, her cheeks puffed out, and her body was more than a little porkin. Mig scoured the floor with a coarse brush, back and forth, back and forth. It was hard, tedious work, but every now and then Mig took a break and gazed up at the top of the hall's long, long staircase. Above the stairs, a portrait of Princess P adorned the wall. The painted P looked down upon the palace in all her fairy tale loveliness. Pretty princess, Mig thought dreamily, imagining herself in such a portrait. But when she went back to scrubbing, all Mig saw was her own sad face reflected in the marble floor. Miggery So wasn't born into royalty, and who'd marry her? But at one time or another, almost every little girl longs to be a princess. Not so long ago, a girl had slogged through the mud, scattering feed to a throng of pigs. She wiped her nose, smearing mud across her face. The little girl lived in squalor on a pig farm. With a front yard full of slop. But in the distance, a castle glowed with dazzling light, and the girl was comforted by the sight of it. "I'm going to live right here," the girl said, pointing out the castle to one of her pigs. The pig snorted. "Right up there near the tippy top," she said. "Ah, quit your daydreaming," a man covered in slop screamed in the girl's ear. The daydreaming girl was Miggery So, and the slop-covered man was her Uncle Ned. Uncle Ned screamed loud, and often. He screamed so loud that his words began to sound like a shrill ringing in Mig's head. And he screamed so often that soon Mig didn't even hear the ringing anymore. Instead, a soft angelic note echoed in her own imagination. "Feed those swine," Uncle Ned yelled. "Yes, I know," said Mig, still staring at the castle. "It's going to be all mine." "No, you deaf little urchin. I said, feed those swine." Miggery So had been shoveling slop for as long as she could remember. Her Uncle Ned had put a shovel in her hand from the minute she could hold one. She didn't mind too much. She got on quite nicely with the pigs. Pigs could be counted on. Pigs did not scream, plus they were excellent listeners. Mig plopped down in the muck, and the swine gathered around, nuzzling her as she spoke. "That's right," Mig told them. "I'm going to have a special room just for me dresses, and another whole closet just for me knickers." In fact, Miggery So could see her future very clearly. She could see the tiara, the fancy dresses, the maids in waiting, and when she got really bad around the farm, she could see the moment when she would finally be delivered from it all. As the years passed, Mig only grew more convinced that she was destined to reside in the castle, even as she herded the hogs into their sty for the umpteenth time. "Not long now," Mig told them. "I promise you that." So there she was, getting the last hog in the sty when she noticed a visitor. Uncle Ned was talking to a man she'd never seen before. Mig wiped some slop from her forehead, accidentally wiping more slop onto it, and listened closely. 20 for the big ones, 15 for the sow, and 12 for the girl, the man said. 15 for the girl, countered Ned, same as the cow. And before she knew it, Mig was being carried away along with the pigs on the back of a man's ox cart. Although it was difficult to tell Mig and the pigs apart, all squished together as they were. The cart pulled her through the broken-down gate of Uncle Ned's slop-filled yard and headed for the glorious castle in the distance. "I told ya," Mig told her pigs. "I told ya I'd make it to the castle. Ooh-wee!" So sometimes it doesn't take much for your dreams to come true. You just have to be able to see it that way. From the back of the cart, Mig took one last look at the farm. She tried to straighten her hair and wipe the muck off her face, accidentally wiping more muck onto it, to make a good impression at the castle. And now, there she was. Mig sat on her knees and looked down at the tired, dirty face reflected in the marble floor. "Yep," she said to herself, "I'm living in the castle all right." And then Miggery snorted and went back to work.